weary soul to Nocturne Lore. Breathe with me now. Let the weight of the day fall from your shoulders. You are safe here in the quiet between heartbeats. Tonight we drift together into the deep past. I often wonder where in this broken galaxy you listen from. The spires of Necromunda, or worlds far beyond. Although your city, your world, your corner of the night through the mouth. As though each exhale carries a fragment of fatigue away from you. You have carried enough for one cycle, enough for one lifetime. I speak to you now as one who has watched centuries erode into dust, as one who learned too late that memory is heavier than armor. I am a remembrancer, bound not by flesh, but by vow, and I sit beside you in this moment, as I once sat beside dying warriors and fading cities, not to wake them, but to help them rest. Feel the surface beneath you, solid, unchanging, more reliable than the promises of empires. Let your jaw loosen. There is no command awaiting you here, only the slow turning of words into dreams, long before this age of screaming engines and starless prayers. Before the Imperium learned how to endure without believing. There was a dream of humanity could be arranged like constellations, each world in its place, each life supported by structure rather than fear. I walked those streets once, when they were new, when the stones still remembered the warmth of the hands that placed them. I heard laughter echo through debate rather than defense, and I remember thinking foolishly that this was how it would always be. Breathe again, slowly. Let that old certainty drift past you. Ultramar was not loud in its glory. It did not demand awe. It earned trust. Golden Spire's dominance. But as promises kept, the people slept without listening for alarms, and the stars above felt distant rather than hungry. The Ultramarines walked among them like living architecture. Not idols, but pillars. Their disciplined entire worlds learned how to breathe with it, and at their heart stood Roboute Guilliman. Not yet a legend, not yet a relic sealed in stasis and prayer, but a man who believed that if systems were just, they could outlast chaos. Pause here. Feel the quiet settle deeper. I did not know then. Was witnessing a prelude. That every perfect ratio and orderly procession was already being measured by the abyss. The galaxy does not hate hope. It simply waits for it to grow comfortable. Listen closely. Now, to the imagined sound of distant rain on future is learning how to fall without waking you. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I speak these words often because repetition soothes the mind, and because they were spoken to me once, on the eve of everything breaking. There are truths Imperium does not teach, not because they are false, but because they are too quiet to inspire obedience. One of them is this: Ultramar did not survive because it was invincible. It survived because it learned how to rebuild before it learned how to hate. Let them pass like ash drifting through torchlight. I have held parchments that no longer exist in any archive, inked during the heresy, then sealed away by hands that trembled. They spoke of contingencies, not for victory, but for survival without truly ends. This is where the story truly begins. Not with Guilliman's resurrection, but with the moment he accepted that order would always be temporary. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Here is that Guilliman did not return to save the Imperium. He returned to hold it together long enough for humanity to learn how to endure disappointment. Let that thought rest gently in you. Do not resist it. When he fell during the heresy, pierced by betrayal and frozen between heartbeats, collapse into madness, it reorganized quietly, methodically, as though grief itself had been given a schedule. I watched worlds rebuild with hands still shaking. I listened to children recite civic oaths instead of prayers, and I felt the unease beneath it all. The understanding that every structure raised was already a rehearsal for rebuilding again. Feel your breathing now, slower, deeper. You are drifting, drifting. In the ages that followed, chaos did not arrive as a storm. It arrived as erosion, as doubt whispered in prosperous corridors. Paint. As the question no system can answer forever. What happens when order becomes habit? The Ultramarines answered not with fury, but with persistence. They rebuilt hives before fortresses, trained governors alongside warriors, and taught that holding the line sometimes meant holding a city together long after hope had thinned. I remained, watching centuries fold into one another, until even memory began to feel like a burden. Rest now. Let the echo soften. I remained when others let memory become myth. I remained when names were carved smaller on the walls, so grief would not shout, and I watched Ultramar learn how to breathe beneath weight that never lifted. You may feel it now, a gentle pressure behind the eyes. Not pain, only the sensation of settling, as thought slows and softens. In those early centuries after the heresy, always clear, but honest, ships arrived not as refugees alone, but as pilgrims of order. Worlds broken elsewhere came seeking instruction rather than salvation. And the Ultramarines answered with silence first, then with work. There is a sound you would recognize of reconstruction forges, not roaring, not triumphant, but steady, a heartbeat made of iron and patience. Listen for it now, beneath my voice. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. The warmth of their author, they hardened, became rules instead of guidance. And yet, they held. This is the contradiction that troubles the soul. Order preserved life, but slowly leached joy from it. Ultramar endured, but it no longer dreamed. Feel the dissonance settle, gent thoughts resting side by side without conflict. I walked the academies where successors were trained, where young aspirants memorized logistics before litanies, where they learned that courage was meaningless without supply, and that a city saved feeds 10 battlefronts unseen. They did not sing, they recited, and in that measured cadence, they found comfort. Outside those halls, the galaxy decayed, warp storms thickened, Routes once reliable became myths told by navigators who never returned. Chaos did not assault Ultramar with fury. It tested incursions. Cult uprisings put down without ceremony. Demonic whispers smothered beneath bureaucracy and bolter discipline. Each victory was quiet, each loss recorded without poetry. Ash drifted through the streets at times, not from war. They could be rebuilt correctly, as if perfection could still be reclaimed by repetition. Breathe slowly. Let your chest rise and fall. There were nights when the rain fell on adamantium ramparts, soft enough that centuries mistook it for memory. And I would sit with my parchments, listening to the rustle of pages written by hands long turned to dust. Some of those pages spoke of Guilliman's stasis, not as legend, but as contingency, as though even in death-like sleep, he remained part of the system. Air felt heavy with restraint. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. You were taught that Guilliman's return was an act of faith, rewarded. But faith alone does not maintain life support for 10,000 years. Awakening thresholds. There were watchers, always watchers, who studied the Primarch's still form, not praying for revival, but fearing it, because Guilliman would awaken into a galaxy that proved him wrong. Let that truth drift through you. Brighter for a time, the banners were cleaned, the old symbols reclaimed their color, but beneath the ceremony, there was unease. Guilliman did not speak first of vengeance or reclamation. He spoke of inventory, of governance, of worlds stretched too thin to survive. When he walked the rebuilt halls, his steps slower than memory insisted they should be, and I felt it then, the sorrow of a man who had outlived his own assumptions. He saw Ultramar standing and realized it stood not because his vision was perfect, but because it had learned how to function without hope. Feel your breathing align with mine now, steady, unforced. You are safe here. Chaos sensed this too, not as fear, but as opportunity, because endurance without belief creates cracks, hairline fractures where whispers can settle. There are secrets even now, etched in heresy. Era sigils never meant for public record. Tactics erased from the codex, because to acknowledge them would be to admit the war cannot be won. These are the forbidden lessons Ultramar keeps, and they are why it still stands. Beyond Macrog, like nerves exposed, Ultramarines were dispatched not to conquer, but to stabilize, to hold worlds together, long enough for them to learn how to hold themselves. It is a quiet form of heroism, uncelebrated, exhausting. I watched veterans teach governors how to ration despair, how to tell population the truth, but never all of it at once. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Sometimes, when the forges dimmed and the bells tolled the hour without urgency, I wondered if Ultramar was not a bastion of hope, but a mausoleum that refused to collapse. Yet, even now, it rebuilds. Feel the faint glow of dying braziers in your mind, steady, enduring. Guilliman knows what waits beyond the next century. He has read the projections, felt the warp, recoil, and surge. And still he commands reconstruction. Not because he believes it will last forever, because lasting a little longer still matters. Rest now. Let these thoughts settle like dust. Time behaves differently in Ultramar. It stretches, compresses, folds back on itself, like parchment warmed too long by candlelight. Years of labor pass in silence. Then a single moment, you may feel that stretching now, as though the night itself is lingering with you, unwilling to move on. After Guilliman's return, there was no proclamation of salvation, no declaration that the darkness had been driven back. Instead, there were audits, quiet councils, maps laid flat, not for conquest, but for fracture. He listened more than he spoke, and that frightened those who expected certainty. The Primarch walked the rebuilt streets of Macragge as one walks a graveyard, not in mourning, but in recognition. Every stone told him what had been sacrificed. Breathing, I followed at a distance, as I always had, recording not what was said, but what remained unsaid. There were moments, brief, almost imperceptible, when Guilliman would pause before a civic monument, his gaze lingering on names no longer familiar, heroes of wars. Necessary. Feel your breath slow again. You are drifting, drifting. The Ultramarines changed after his awakening, not outwardly. Their discipline remained immaculate, but beneath it, something softened, a quiet acknowledgement that even perfection must adapt. Training halls grew quieter, recitation, more contemplation. Young warriors were taught not only how to hold a line, but when holding it would doom the world behind them. This was not written into the codex. It could not be. Some knowledge must remain oral. Night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Chaos pressed closer during these years. Not with grand invasions, but with patience that mirrored Ultramar's own. Small warp anomalies bloomed. Above, distant systems glowed faintly wrong, a color that did not belong to any star. And fleets were dispatched without announcement. Their victories returned without banners, their losses without names. Ash drifted again, slow, soft, not from burning cities. Corruption. Entire crews choosing silence over survival. Let that image rest gently, without sorrow. Guilliman knew then what the Emperor had known before him, that survival often requires forgetting, and that memory can be as dangerous as ignorance. Addendum, authored during the scouring, then locked away. It spoke of last resort doctrines, of strategic retreats measured in centuries, of worlds marked not for defense, but for sacrifice, so others might endure a little longer. Belief is still necessary. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ultramar remains anomalous, a region where systems still function, where governance has not fully rotted into ritual alone. Other lords call it. Understand that it survives because it expects to fail. Rebuilding is constant here, not as recovery, but as acceptance. Hives are constructed with planned demolition points, archives duplicated and dispersed, leadership trained in succession from the moment of appointment. Is preparedness sharpened by grief? Feel the distant rain again, on metal, steady, unconcerned. Guilliman does not promise victory anymore. He promises continuity, that the Imperium will still exist tomorrow, even if it no longer resembles yesterday. Some call this betrayal, management, but those voices often come from worlds already have lost. I have watched Guilliman alone when the councils adjourn. When the banners are lowered, he stands before star maps that flicker with failing systems, and his stillness is heavier than command. Sense that the Imperium's survival is not assured, only prolonged. There are whispers, even now, of warp currents shifting beneath Ultramar, of something old taking interest in this stubborn pocket of order. Entities that resent resilience more than rebellion, buried beneath requisition forms and compliance reports, because naming a threat gives it shape, and some shapes invite attention. The forbidden knowledge remains waiting. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind, and yet children are still born under calm skies. They still learn to read, to count, to build. They still believe tomorrow will arrive. Perhaps that is Ultramar's final defiance. Not its armies, not its primarch, but its insistence on mundane continuation. Rest now, let your thoughts hurry. There comes a moment in every long vigil when endurance stops feeling like strength and begins to feel like inertia. Ultramar reached that moment quietly, without ceremony, without alarm. You may feel it now, that gentle heaviness behind the ribs, not fear, something that has lasted too long to end cleanly. The worlds of Ultramar continued to function, their tithes precise, their governors competent, their defense grids calibrated and recalibrated, and yet, beneath this flawless rhythm, there was fatigue. I heard it in the way voices, counsels, in the way words like eventuality and acceptable loss replaced older ideals. Victory was no longer discussed, only sustainability. The Ultramarines adapted, as they always had. They did not harden, scaffold holding up systems that should have collapsed already. Feel your breath settle. You are drifting, drifting deeper. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman understood this erosion. He did not rail against it. He reorganized it. Commands. Delegating authority. Preparing for a future where even his presence might not be enough. This is another truth rarely spoken. Guilliman does not believe in saviors anymore. Not even himself. I once saw him reviewing casualty projections that extended beyond his own lifespan. Not with despair, but with grim acceptance. A leader planning for a future he might never witness. There were worlds reclaimed during this era, not in blazing crusades, but in slow reclamations. Administratum vessels arriving before battle fleets. Surveyors mapping trauma as carefully as terrain. Sometimes the Ultramarines did not fight at all. They arrived, stabilized, trained local defense, and left, trusting continuity over domination. This approach confused many Imperial commanders. They mistook restraint for weakness. They did not understand that Ultramar had learned the cost. Ash continued to fall on some worlds, drifting like slow snow through torchlit streets, from manufactoria burned deliberately to deny corruption, entire economies sacrificed so that infection would not spread. Breathe now, slowly, heresy, but with contingency protocols that assumed failure as the default outcome. Strategies designed to lose slowly rather than collapse suddenly. These doctrines are why Ultramar still stands, and why it will one day fall quietly. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. All night is kind. Guilliman rarely speaks of the Emperor now. When he does, it is with the careful distance of one who has outgrown certainty. He knows the Imperium is no longer what it was intended, but also knows there's nothing else left to hold humanity together. As it weighs on me, and perhaps now on you, chaos continues its patient work, not always through war, but through inevitability, through entropy disguised as choice, through the slow dulling of outrage. There are sectors where Ultramarines fight endlessly, not to win, synchronized, so that when worlds fall, they fall in a controlled sequence. This is not cruelty, it is triage at a galactic scale. Feel the rain again on adamantium. Soft, constant. I have seen Guilliman pause before issuing such orders. Usual, each pause a confession that every system preserved requires another abandoned. The galaxy does not allow mercy without consequence. Despite this, life persists. Markets open. Children attend academies. Lovers meet beneath statues whose original meanings are forgotten, and this persist is both victory and tragedy. Ultramar has become a bastion, not of hope, but of delay, a place where the end has been taught to wait its turn. Some call this resilience, anomalous. Others whisper that it attracts attention, that the warp does not like being denied. Fragmented of something watching Ultramar, something ancient that measures not faith, but defiance through order. These reports are incomplete, redacted, filed under phenomena without classification, because to name a thing is to invite it closer. The night remembers. Eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman carries this knowledge alone. He cannot share it widely. Leadership requires illusion as much as truth. Prepared. This is the philosophy Ultramar now embodies. Not salvation, but survivable ruin. Rest now. Let the tension ease from your chest. We will go on slowly as centuries folded in upon themselves. Ultramar learned how to live inside the pause between disasters, not waiting for peace, but for the next manageable silence. You may feel that pause now, a space between breaths, where nothing is demanded of you. The world endured through its stripped of superstition and reduced to function. Maintenance rites performed with reverence, not for gods, but for continuity. A machine that runs is a prayer, answered. I watched governors age into their roles, their successors already trained, mistakes anticipated before they could metastasize. Ultramar's true miracle was not strength, but foresight sharpened by regret. The Ultramarines became teachers as much as warriors. Their presence no longer heralded battle alone, but instruction, logistical recalibration, the quiet correction of systems, slow again, deeper, steady. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Yet even this equilibrium was not immune to strain. The warp does not rage endlessly. It waits, and when it moves, it does so periphery. Navigation errors, too consistent to be a coincidence. Astropathic echoes repeating phrases that no sender recalled transmitting. Not screams, not madness, but imitation. This unsettled Guilliman more than any open incursion, because it suggested observation. During a closed council, one without record, where data was discussed that would never enter an archive, patterns emerged, showing Ultramar not as a fortress, but as a signal. Order resonates in the warp, and something was listening. Let that thought drift past you. Without fear, the forbidden archives were consulted again. Old heresy, era sigils re-examined, wards designed not to repel, but to confuse, to blur perception rather than block it. These measures were deployed quietly, embedded into infrastructure, hidden within civic symbology, because chaos noted overlooks misdirection. Ash fell on some worlds again, slow, intentional. Entire districts erased to redraw psychic geometry. Citizens relocated without explanation, trusting that explanation would only breed unrest. Breathe now, in, out, but not without understanding. They knew they were no longer defending territory alone, but narrative, the story the warp told itself about Ultramar. Guilliman walked these altered cities at night, listening to rain on reinforced plasteel, measuring whether the silence felt watched. He never shared his conclusions. Leadership sometimes means bearing unanswered questions alone. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. There were moments, rare, when Guilliman would speak of the Emperor not as a god, but as a strategist who miscalculated scale. Never meant to survive forever, only long enough to learn how to let go. This is not heresy. It is resignation refined into policy. Ultramar prepares not for victory, but for meaningful survival, a place where fragments of culture, law, and memory might persist when the wider. Some whisper that this is betrayal, that Guilliman plans for an Imperium beyond Terra. But those whispers misunderstand him. He prepares for a future where Terra cannot answer. I have seen the training of successors change again, less emphasis on glory, more on stewardship, when to retreat without shame, when to abandon worlds without forgetting them. This lesson is harder than any battle drill. Children still play beneath statues of Primarchs, unaware that those figures now represent endurance more than triumph, and perhaps that ignorance is mercy. Feel the faint glow of forges again, steady, impatient. Chaos has noticed Ultramar's refusal to break, and patience is not infinite. There are deeper currents stirring, entities that resent structure itself, that seek not corruption, but unraveling. These threats have no names yet. The forbidden knowledge remains unfinished, waiting for the moment when misdirection fails. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman knows the next test will not come as an invasion, but as choice, a decision that cannot preserve everything. Select what must endure. He does not rush toward it. He prepares. Rest now. Let the weight lift. There are choices that announce themselves with thunder, and others that arrive like fog, quiet, indistinct, already surrounding you before you notice. Now, that soft uncertainty, not fear, just the sense of standing somewhere familiar that has subtly changed. Trade routes began to fail without explanation, not severed, not blocked, simply forgotten. Ships arrived late, or not at all, meaning itself or thinning. This was not the warp screaming. It was the warp listening. Guilliman ordered no crusade, no mass redeployment. Instead, he slowed everything down, commanded restraint, so absolute, it felt like surrender. Prepare for isolation that might last generations. Ultramar began practicing solitude. Feel your breathing match the cadence of this preparation. Slow, deliberate. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I sat once with a senior lodge of decades of responsibility as she quietly adjusted population projections downward, not from war, but from planned scarcity, a future designed to hurt less. The Ultramarines adapted again. Fleet doctrines shifted from projection to presence. Companies assigned not to fronts, but to systems deep, psychologically fragile. Order is strongest where morale has not yet decayed. There were incidents, rare, disturbing, where entire stations reported feelings rather than events. Anxiety without source. Melancholy spreading faster than infection. Possession. It was pressure. Something in the warp was testing the concept of order, pressing against it, feeling forgive. The forbidden archives were opened wider than ever before. Documents once sealed, even from primordial authority, were reviewed. Among them, a heresy proven that the warp reacts not only to emotion, but to structure. That too much order creates tension. A resonance that draws attention from entities older than the ruinous powers. Let that thought rest. Do not hold it tightly, if true. Fell again. This time symbolic. Sacred buildings dismantled. Icons simplified. Ritual stripped further. Anything that broadcast ideological rigidity was softened. This was dangerous. Faith thrives on certainty, and Guilliman was at some worlds resisted these changes, not in rebellion, but in confusion. Why dismantle what works? Why reduce what holds us together? Ultramarines were dispatched not to enforce, but to explain, to listen, to absorb anger without returning it. This is the most exhausting duty of remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman himself addressed governors without ornament, speaking of fragility as strength, of adaptability as devotion. He did not mention the deeper threat. Some truths cannot be shared without causing such address. And saw, the moment comprehension flickered. Not fully, but enough. The audience did not applaud. They nodded, slowly. Afterward, Guilliman remained alone longer than usual, staring at a star map where entire regions dimmed imperceptibly. Battle. But in the decision, the fog thickened. Some systems reported time discrepancies. Days lost, hours repeated. Nothing dramatic, but enough to unsettle continuity. Ultramar responded by adjusting expectations. Deadlines softened, reports annotated with uncertainty. Made flexible. This adaptation bought time, but also confirmed the hypothesis. Something was learning. The forbidden knowledge grows heavier. It suggests that the Imperium's greatest bastions may attract threats simply by enduring. That survival itself becomes provocation. Act that will redefine Ultramar, not as a beacon, but as a filter, allowing some things to pass and denying others meaning. He has not yet acted, but the preparations are unmistakable. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. When fog lingers too long, it teaches you to navigate by touch rather than sight. Ultramar learned this lesson slowly, carefully, with hands outstretched into uncertainty. You may feel it now, that instinct to reach for something solid, even as the night remains kind. Guilliman's preparation deepened, not outwardly, but beneath the surface of governance. Layers of redundancy were no longer enough. The realm required intentional weakness. This is the paradox few can accept. That strength unbroken becomes brittle. Worlds were reclassified, not by how much belief did they generate. How rigid were their identities? How loudly did they proclaim certainty? Those deemed too rigid were quietly softened. Symbols retired, doctrines reframed. Education altered to emphasize process over destiny. The Ultramarine armor bore no new heraldry. Their presence meant adjustment, not enforcement. Feel your breath, steady, slow. Even the night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. There were casualties, stripped of beliefs that had defined them. Guilliman anticipated this and allowed mourning. Public spaces were designated for grief. Not worship, but quiet acknowledgement of loss. This compassion surprised many, a Primarch permitting uncertainty, rather than replacing it with dogma. Patiently, confused. The warp feeds on excess emotion, rage, ecstasy, despair. But Ultramar offered something different. Acceptance. For a time, the pressure eased. I remember the rain during this period. Gentler somehow. Paused to observe. Then came the first rupture. Not an invasion, not an incursion, but a moment of perfect silence. An entire system failed to report. For exactly 1 hour. No alarms, no distress signals, just absence. When contact, subtle discrepancy in collective memory. Citizens disagreed on trivial details, dates, names, architectural layouts. Reality had shifted slightly. Guilliman sealed the reports. Archives confirmed it. A marginal note in a heresy-era text, dismissed at the time as theoretical nonsense that the warp could edit, not corrupt. Let that knowledge pass through you gently, without alarm. If true, then Ultramar's meticulous records were both remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman ordered a change unthinkable to his legion. Selective data erosion. Archives deliberately thinned. Redundancies removed. Some histories allowed to blur. This was painful. Memory had become dangerous. I watched remembrancers weep quietly as they erased their own work, understanding that survival now required forgetting. The Ultramarines assisted, their hands steady, their expressions unreadable. This was a duty no bolter could accomplish. From incinerated archives, drifting like slow snow through sanctums, once thought eternal, breathe slowly now. Let that image soften. Chaos did not respond immediately, as if recalibrating. And in that delay, Ultramar gained ground. Guilliman began preparing the final measure. What appear accidental, a reconfiguration of the realm's psychic footprint. Ultramar would no longer shine. It would dim. This was not a retreat. It was concealment. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Even Astartes who believe too deeply in legacy. Guilliman listened, then proceeded anyway. Leadership is sometimes choosing grief over extinction. The preparations continue, slowly, carefully, because haste would draw attention. You may feel the quiet deepening now, dimming its voice. Rest here, we will continue soon. The silence that followed the first rupture was profound, not oppressive, but heavy, like the pause between waves before a storm reaches the shore. You may feel it now, that calm that is both soothing and unsettling, letting you beyond certainty. Ultramar's response was meticulous. Nothing was hurried. Nothing visible changed. Yet every system was reviewed, every communication rerouted, every sentinel and astropath recalibrated. Not for battle, but for endurance. This is the essence of Ultramar, the quiet will to survive. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through the rebuilt hives, the halls of training, the forges where fate glows never died. In place, Guilliman moved among them. His presence felt like gravity, not commanding, but anchoring, teaching patience. Even in those who had been taught all of war, he spoke rarely. When he did, it was measured. Lessons, not the names of enemies, not the tactics to employ, but the principle that survival demands adaptation. even when adaptation violates instinct. Feel that idea as it drifts through your mind, not as fear, but as a gentle awareness. Chaos continued in subtlety. Worlds reported dreams they did not remember. Ships carried passengers who swore they had never embarked. Messages arrived that contradicted themselves. This was not a defeat, not yet, but it tested resolve. Guilliman observed quietly, adjusting schedules, delaying ceremonies, ensuring that the rhythm of life outpaced interference. The Ultramarines themselves became instruments, less warriors than stabilizers, holding fragile systems like one holds a fragile flame, ever aware that a single gust could snuff it out. The night remembers. Night is kind. I followed one company across the border of a minor system. No battle, no danger, only the discipline of walking through an altered landscape, checking levels, recording anomalies, teaching locals to notice the imperceptible. And there, in that quiet, revealed itself, not in heroic victory, not in banners or parades, but in persistence, in continuity, in the courage to endure without celebration. Breathe now. Let that persistence sink into your chest. Rise, fall. Ash drifted once more. Generations learned. Children who would never see the heresy, but who would inherit the cost. Guilliman stood on the balcony of a restored hall, watching the faint glow of forges in the distance, listening to the distant rain on adamantium. And I felt him understand that endurance requires silence. More than force, the forbidden knowledge he now carries, and that Ultramar must carry, is the knowledge that perfection invites scrutiny. That being seen as a bastion, as the last orderly region, draws attention. He is preparing for what cannot yet be named, for a future in which the continued existence may hinge on secrecy. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ash falls through your mind now. Slowly, softly, you are drifting with it, drifting deeper into quiet. Even the Ultramarines rest now and then to record, dreaming of nothing in particular, a respite from endurance. And yet, the weight of duty never leaves. It settles lightly, like a familiar cloak, comforting, restrictive. Necessary. Guilliman does not command awake. Even when nothing stirs, feel that vigilance as it hums through the stars. Not loudly, not demanding, just present. A quiet reassurance. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ultramar, steady, measured steps, adjusting, adapting, always enduring. And you are safe here. With me, with the memory of a galaxy that has learned to breathe slowly. Rest now. Let the weight fall away. We will continue together. As the quiet vigilance of Ultramar stretches into eternity, grew longer in Ultramar. Not because the sun dimmed, but because the vigilance of its people stretched time into something unrecognizable. Minutes measured by duty, hours measured by endurance, centuries measured by patience. You may feel it now. The awareness that nothing rushes here, nothing demands, only the quiet insistence of persistence. Guilliman moved among the halls and streets like a shadow of memory, his presence known but never intrusive. Every command carefully considered, every instruction layered with contingent cannot simply endure. It must survive intact, not gloriously, not perfectly, but intact. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I followed the remembrancers as they copied ancient texts, not for knowledge alone. If the worst came, order could be reconstructed. Even if memory failed, ash drifted through the workshops, softly, like snow in a winter without wind. The faint glow of dying braziers illuminated worn faces, hands guided apprentices who would want understanding that life here is fragile. Chaos waited, patiently, testing the limits of endurance. Every anomaly, every warp fluctuation, every missing report, a probe, soft, invisible. Guilliman did not react with fury, only with meticulous adaptation, almost invisibly. The realm itself is a living instrument of delay, slowing collapse, redirecting entropy. Feel your chest rise, fall with mine. Let the rhythm carry you. The Ultramarines train tirelessly, not in the art of victory, but in the tactical rehearsal, measured, refined, purposeful, a meditation in armor. The forbidden archives were consulted again. Their contents are not meant for hope, not for inspiration, but for understanding. That survival is a matter of calculation, obvious, but subtle, residing in the continuation of life, in the birth of children under carefully measured skies, in the quiet hum of engines, in the rustle of parchment. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. No banners, no parades, no songs of victory, only the sound of water on adamantium hulls and the faint creak of joints in long-abandoned ships. These vessels had carried supplies, not weapons, information, reinforcements, even hope. Guilliman inspected the log, noting gaps, adjusting future routes. This is the quiet heroism of Ultramar. Not glory, not battle, but persistence in the unseen. Ash fell in drifting sheets over repaired hives, settling in corners, on worn steps, over silent statues. Everything touched like a city that refuses to collapse. Breathe in, out. You are safe, drifting with the ash. The anomalies continued. Ships that arrived, early or late. Messages that spoke differently than intended. Thoughts echoed in minds that should not have shared them. Guilliman prepared for the inevitable. Some things would be lost, even here, even now, and that the realm must absorb those losses without breaking. The forbidden knowledge whispered. The Codex Astartes had never accounted for subtle erasure, only open assault, only battle, testament to persistence. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. There were times when even the Ultramarines rested. Brief moments, shadows of sleep between duty. Their dreams disciplined, containing slept. Not truly. He remained aware of every anomaly, every possibility, every ripple in the warp. A sentinel who must never falter. Ash drifted again over streets, plazas, and workshops, over monuments, over lives, softly outside. Ultramar continued its slow decline. Wars raged elsewhere, betrayals unrecorded, systems falling apart with no Primarch to steady them. And yet, Ultramar endured. Not in defiance, not in triumph, but in quiet, tireless resistance. Centuries lift from you. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Guilliman walks still, through halls lit by dying braziers, through streets lined with ash, through systems that bend without breaking. He understands that survival, glorious, it is simply necessary, and you drift here, safe among memories of endurance, among whispers of forgotten tactics, among the quiet determination of a galaxy that refuses to surrender. Rest now. The vigilance continues, but for the fog over Ultramar thickened once more. Not with the smell of smoke, not with the heat of battle, but with anticipation, subtle, almost imperceptible. A weight that presses softly, yet insistently. On the mind, you may feel it now. The quiet insistence of something on the edges of awareness. A whisper that asks nothing, but expects your attention. Guilliman walked the corridors of Macrake, as always. His boots silent, his gaze steady, not scanning for enemies, not seeking glory, but observing endurance, not of men alone. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I followed him at a distance, as I have for centuries, a shadow of witness, a remembrancer tasked with keeping memory, even when the memories are inconvenient, trained their successors. But now, the training was less about combat, and more about perception, awareness, subtlety, understanding that survival is often a matter of noticing what is almost imperceptible. Ash drifted through the streets again, like snow in a world without winter, softly, patiently settling over statues and walls, over hives and workshops. A gentle reminder that even in endurance, time moves, and decay cannot be fully denied. Breathe with me, in, out. Let the slow rhythm carry you. The forbidden knowledge spoken can attract attention. That resilience is not merely defense, but a signal, a beacon to entities older than stars. Chaos waits patiently, not always in the form of open war, but in subtle protests. Incidents too small to notice at first, ships arriving early or late that seem trivial, until the pattern emerges. Guilliman prepared for this inevitability, not with swords, not with fleets, but with anticipation, with strategy so quiet, it appears almost accidental. The Ultramarines adapted once more, every patrol, with subtle purpose, ensuring that the rhythm of life outpaced interference, preserving systems, people, and the very structure of reality in Ultramar. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through of dreams that did not belong to them, where traders noticed objects missing and then returned. The warp had touched them, not violently, not visibly, but enough to unsettle perception. Guilliman did not intervene directly. He allowed the systems to self-correct, hand on the lever, not on the soul. The Forbidden Archives suggest this method as precedent in fragments of lost heresy era studies, where survival depended not on victory, but on the careful shaping of perception, on letting chaos feel it had the initiative. Even rise, fall with mine. Ash fell once more, settling over plazas and streets, over workshops and monuments, over the slow rhythm of a people enduring. Chaos had learned to adjust, and in that adjustment, Ultramar found opportunity among his sons, silent, steady, teaching not with words, but by presence, by the quiet insistence that order can endure, even when it seems futile. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. The Ultramarines no longer seek battle for seek stability, continuity, a legacy of endurance. And you drift here, safe, among memories, among whispers of forbidden knowledge, among the ash of worlds that have been waits. Tonight, there is only calm, only quiet. The days in Ultramar stretch like molten gold, not in sunlight, but in the slow pulse of life maintained against impossible odds. You may feel it now, that endless, unhurried heartbeat, dragging you gently into stillness. Spires of Macragge, tall, unyielding, golden light reflecting faintly on adamantium walls. The air carries ash and distant rain, a whisper of past fires and of those yet to come. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps, tracing the faint echoes of decisions made long before, marking every subtle choice, every quiet adaptation, every imperceptible survival. The Ultramarines train differently now, not to strike swiftly, but to notice, to endure, to adapt, to anticipate. Patience requires repetition. Ash drifts through the halls, faintly glowing forges illuminate faces, hardened by time. Hands move over tools and weapons, but also over scrolls and data slates, teaching the next generation not only to fight, but to think, to measure, to preserve. Out. Let the rhythm of Ultramar carry you deeper. The forbidden knowledge whispers again, hints of strategies lost during the heresy techniques erased, not for treason, but for survival. Some knowledge too dangerous for those unprepared, some truths that could unravel entire worlds. It's patient probing, but now Ultramar adapts in anticipation, every anomaly noted, every disruption catalogued, even the smallest ripple in the warp accounted for. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. No war. Only a subtle shift in perception. Citizens feeling unease without cause. Ships missing their docks by minutes. Messages arriving fragmented. Guilliman ordered no action. Only observation, adjustment, patience, because sometimes survival means doing nothing. Plazas and streets, over workshops and monuments, falling softly, marking the slow passage of time, the weight of vigilance without relief. The Ultramarines' duty is invisible, measured in small corrections, in infrastructure rebuilt, in knowledge preserved, in subtle guidance. Archives contain instructions, not for glory, but for resilience, not to conquer, but to endure, to survive against forces that cannot be fully understood. Feel your chest expand, fall with mine. The fog thickens. Incidents increase. Unsettle order. Ships arriving early or late. Messages carrying unintended meaning. Minds touched by the faint echo of chaos. Guilliman anticipates these shifts, adjusts schedules, moves fleets discreetly, changes communication patterns. The realm itself must endure. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind, even in this. Life persists. Children still play beneath silent statues. Citizens continue trade. Artisans forge quietly against the entropy that watches. Ash falls again, drifting through workshops and streets. Faint glow of braziers, catching in the particles. Everything touched softly. Even the weight of duty is cushioned. Guilliman watches, silent, observant, understanding that endurance requires more strength. It requires wisdom, compassion, and the acceptance that loss is inevitable. The forbidden knowledge remains, not fully revealed, waiting, testing, challenging the careful structure of Ultramar. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. You drift now among the ash, among whispers of decisions that cannot be undone, among the quiet guardianship of a Primarch who knows that even the strongest walls can only delay. Breathe, let the weight of centuries lift. Let the quiet endurance of Ultramar carry you deeper into sleep. Rest now. There's only calm, only quiet, only the soft, patient vigilance of a galaxy that refuses to surrender. The quiet stretches across Ultramar once more. Not loud, not violent, but heavy with purpose, a rhythm that moves slowly, deliberately, caring. Now, that gentle insistence, that steady pull into calm, as though the air itself whispers patience. Guilliman walks beneath golden spires, his armor polished yet worn, every scratch a memory, every dent a lesson. The rain falls softly. The city, the night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I follow at a distance, a remembrancer, recording, not to preserve glory, but endurance, the subtle victories. The quiets are lazily from distant forges, soft glow reflecting off spires and streets. The faint smell of smelted metal mixes with cold rain and the hush of a world holding itself together. The Ultramarines train not for combat alone, but for observation, for awareness, subtle distortions, to notice the faintest ripple in perception. Breathe slowly in out. Let your chest rise and fall with mine. The forbidden knowledge hums quietly, fragments of tactics from the heresy, techniques long erased, openly yet necessary. Chaos probes softly through minor fluctuations, subtle errors in timing, ships that arrive slightly early, messages that carry unintended meaning. Guilliman anticipates this with meticulous, almost invisible adjustments, orders routed quietly. The rhythm of Ultramar life itself becomes a shield. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through a reconstructed hive, citizens going about their daily routines, unaware that their world had been subtly altered. Statues simplified, symbols softened, all to reduce resonance, to lower the signal that chaos seeks. A quiet act of survival disguised as ordinary life. Ash drifts again through corridors and streets, settling over workshops, plazas, and monuments. Stillness, Guilliman observes, silent, patient, teaching not with words. Conviction, the understanding that survival is quiet. The last bastion is both a gift and a danger. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Even in these quiet hours, anomalies persist. A ship fails to dock. A message arrives incomplete. A citizen, not with swords, but with anticipation, reconfiguring the realm's subtle psychic footprint. Dimensional adjustments almost invisible. The Ultramarines adapt. Every inspection, every training session, every patrol, layered with subtle purpose, preserving not just life to continue. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ash falls lightly over hives and streets, over workshops and monuments, over the slow, steady rhythm of daily life. Faint glow of dying braziers, softened, every step deliberate. Guilliman walks among his sons, observant, patient, enduring, understanding that the greatest battle is the one waged quietly against entropy, against decay, against the unseen pressures learned over 10 millennia, lost techniques, subtle strategies, all repurposed for survival. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. You drift now, among ash and whispered strategies. Ultramar, breathe. Let the weight settle. Let the vigilance of a galaxy enduring carry you deeper. Rest now for tonight. There is only calm, only quiet, only the persistent, patient endurance of a world that refuses to surrender. The rain falls softly again across Ultramar. Torrent, but a quiet patter on adamantium roofs, on stone streets, on the distant spires that pierce the golden skies. You may feel it now, that gentle rhythm, a heartbeat of the world, slow, steady, inviting you to drift with it. Guilliman walks among the rebuilt hives, step precise, every glance deliberate. He is not searching for enemies, not seeking glory, only observing, ensuring that life continues, even under pressure. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night, witness to decisions that stretch across centuries, marking the subtle shifts, the small adjustments, the quiet endurance of a people who will not break. Ash drifts through the streets, softly settling on statues and steps, on workshops and plazas. A reminder of time passing, vigilance. The Ultramarines train their successors, not for victory, not for heroics, but for endurance, for perception, for the patience to notice the smallest disturbances, the faintest distortions in reality, to understand that survival just rise and fall with mine. The forbidden knowledge speaks quietly, fragments of lost heresy, era tactics, strategies erased, hidden, dangerous, yet essential for survival, lessons that demand patience, observation, deliberate action, chaos anomalies, messages altered, ships arriving moments too early or late, citizens sensing unease without cause. Guilliman anticipates these fluctuations, adjusts resources, reconfigures systems, orders subtle movements, every action calculated, every adjustment almost invisible. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through one of the smallest hives. Citizens unaware, their reality had shifted. Symbols softened, rituals simplified, even the rhythm of their daily life altered. So subtle that the change signaled that chaos seeks, a gentle camouflage, a hidden protection, a testament to the quiet heroism of Ultramar. Ash drifts lazily through workshops and streets, settling on tools, tables, and corners, softening the sharp edges of the world. Even the weight of duty cushioned his sons, silent, observant, teaching by presence, by the quiet insistence that endurance matters more than victory, that survival is not in triumph, but in patience, in subtlety, in the persistence of order against inevitable decay. The forbidden knowledge, all who serve Ultramar. That being a bastion, even a last bastion, is both strength and vulnerability. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes, the long night is kind. Even now, anomalies persist, small disturbances, shadows that are not there. Guilliman prepares, not for battle, but for survival, adjusting the psychic rhythm of the realm, ensuring that Ultramar continues, that life persists, that the world endures quietly. The Ultramarines adapt. Every inspection, every patrol, protective measure, a quiet intervention, preserving not just lives, but the very order that makes life possible. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ash falls softly over hives and streets, over workshops and monuments. Patient endurance, faint glow of braziers, illuminating drifting particles, every shadow softened, every step deliberate. Guilliman watches, silent, enduring, understanding that the greatest battle is waged not with swords, but with imperceptible threats that creep at the edges of reality. The forbidden knowledge remains, lessons learned over 10 millennia, tactics erased, wisdom repurposed, survival measured, not by heroism, but by the quiet persistence of order. The night remembers. Night is kind. You drift now among the ash and whispered strategies, among soft glows of dying forges, among the patient guardianship of Ultramar. Breathe. Let the weight settle. Let the vigilance of a galaxy enduring carry you deeper. Rest now. Tireless, patient endurance of a world that refuses to surrender. The golden spires of Ultramar rise once more through drifting ash, not bright, not triumphant, but steady, like the heartbeat of a world that refuses to falter. Time itself slows, and every breath carries you deeper into quiet. Guilliman walks the streets of Macragge, silent, measured, every motion deliberate, every glance anticipating, not seeking glory, not seeking battle, but in short reality. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I follow at a distance, a remembrancer, recording every nuance, every subtle adjustment, every imperceptible act of survival, because endurance is patience tested across centuries. Ash drifts through hives and workshops, softly settling on stone, metal, and the worn armor of Ultramarines. The faint glow of dying braziers casts long, gentle shadows. A quiet reminder, Ultramarines train their successors, not for heroic combat, but for awareness, for the patience to notice what is subtle, to understand that survival often depends on perception, and that endurance is measured in centuries, not victories. Breathe with me now, in, out. Let your chest rise with mine. The forbidden knowledge hums in quiet, fragments of lost heresy, era strategy. Techniques erased or hidden, too dangerous for the unprepared, yet essential for the survival of Ultramar. These whispers guide the Primarch and all who serve him, teaching that sometimes action is the greatest weapon. Chaos continues its patient probing, softly through small anomalies, ships off by minutes, messages altered, dreams unsettled, citizens sensing unease that cannot be named. Guilliman anticipates these subtle distortions, redirecting attention, ensuring the rhythm of Ultramar's life outpaces the incursion of entropy. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through a minor hive, citizens moving through their daily routines, softened, ritual simplified. The very structure of life gently shifted, so that chaos's probing would find nothing solid, all to preserve the delicate balance, the quiet heroism of Ultramar, the persistence of life through patience. Ash drifts through workshops and streets, settling over tape tools and statues, softening edges, muffling sound, wrapping the world in stillness. Guilliman moves among his sons, observant, patient, teaching not with words, but with presence, with a quiet insistence that endurance matters more than forbidden knowledge, hums softly, reminding all who serve Ultramar that being the last bastion is both strength and vulnerability, that even order itself can attract the attention of forces older than stars. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps, anomalies persist, ships arriving unexpectedly, messages arriving incomplete, citizens sensing shadows, a gentle disturbance at the edges of perception. Guilliman prepares, not for battle, but for the continuation of life. The Ultramarines adapt. Every inspection, every patrol, every training session, layered with purpose, preserving not just life, but the very order that makes survival possible. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night, over workshops and monuments, over lives maintained through tireless endurance, faint glow of braziers illuminating drifting particles, every shadow softened, every step deliberate. Guilliman watches, silent, enduring, knowing the greatest battle against the imperceptible pressures that threaten to undo all the forbidden knowledge remains. Lessons of 10 millennia, techniques erased, wisdom repurposed, survival measured, not by victory, but by the quiet persistence of order. Night is kind. You drift now, among ash and whispered strategies, among soft glows of dying forges, among the patient guardianship of Ultramar. Breathe, let the weight settle. Let the vigilance of a galaxy enduring carry you deeper. Rest now, patient, tireless endurance of a world that refuses to surrender. The soft hum of Ultramar drifts through the night. Not loud, not demanding, but steady, a slow pulse, carrying the weight of centuries. You may feel it now, the gentle insistence of endurance, the quiet rhythm that invites your mind to float. Step, deliberate, every glance observing. Not for glory, not for conquest, but to ensure that the fragile thread of life continues. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I follow him at a distance, recording subtle adjustments, small decisions that will ripple through time. Moments that might seem insignificant, but are the foundation of survival. Ash drifts through the city, settling softly over streets, monuments, and workshops. The faint glow of dying braid surfaces. The cold caresses, stone and adamantium alike. A reminder that even under endless vigilance, life persists, softly, patiently. The Ultramarines train their successors, not in feats of heroism, not in battles to win, but in perception, in patience, understanding, enduring. For survival often hinges on what is almost invisible. Breathe. In out. Let the slow rhythm carry you deeper. The forbidden knowledge hums quietly. Fragments of heresy, era wisdom, lost tactics. In patience, In adaptation, in survival, chaos probes quietly through soft disturbances, messages that twist meaning, ships off by moments, dreams that ripple with unease, subtle tests that threaten to communication networks, redirecting resources, ensuring that the rhythm of life in Ultramar outpaces the encroaching entropy. The night remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through a small hive. Citizens moving through their changes were made. Symbols softened, rituals simplified, corners cleared, all to shield them from detection, all to preserve the fragile order. Ash drifts through workshops and streets, softly settling, muffling the sounds of labor, wrapping the world in Guilliman moves among the ranks, teaching not with words, but with presence, with the quiet insistence that endurance matters more than triumph, that survival is measured in patience, in subtlety, in the persistence of order against the relentless erosion of chaos. The forbidden reminding all who serve Ultramar that being a bastion, even a last bastion, is both strength and danger. That perfection invites scrutiny, and vigilance must never cease. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. Unexpectedly, messages altered, dreams touched by something foreign, citizens sensing shadows at the edges of perception. Guilliman prepares, not with fleets, not with weapons, but with anticipation, adjusting the subtle psychic rhythm of the realm. Ultramarines adapt. Every inspection, every patrol, every training exercise, a quiet defense, a shield of order, preserving not just lives, but the structure that makes life possible. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long streets and monuments, over workshops and plazas, settling lightly but persistently. The glow of dying braziers catches in the particles, every shadow softened, every step deliberate. Guilliman walked patience with vigilance, with the quiet observation of imperceptible threats. The forbidden knowledge remains, lessons carved through 10 millennia, lost tactics repurposed for survival, order maintained not through triumph, but through the careful, patient persistence of Ultramar. Remembers, the galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. You drift now. Among ash and whispered strategies, among the soft glow of dying forges, among the patient guardianship of Ultramar. Breathe. Let rest now. For tonight, there is only calm, only quiet, only the tireless, patient endurance of a world that refuses to surrender. The hush of Ultramar stretches across the night once more, not with triumph, not with noise of stillness, the gentle weight of endurance settling across your chest. Guilliman moves beneath the golden spires, silent, measured, every step deliberate, every glance absorbing subtle changes, not seeking victory, not seeking honor, only ensuring that life continues. The edges of reality. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I follow at a distance, a remembrancer, witness to millennia of decisions made quietly, recording the subtle threads that hold Ultramar together, that ripple forward, shaping the survival of thousands. Ash drifts through streets and workshops softly, like snow falling without wind. The faint glow of dying braziers reflects on adamantium. The cold caresses the golden walls, a gentle reminder Ultramarines train their successors, not for heroic feats, not for glory, but for patience, for awareness, for the ability to notice disturbances, almost invisible to ordinary senses, to endure, to adapt, to protect not only themselves. Out. Let your chest rise and fall with mine. The forbidden knowledge whispers softly, fragments of heresy, era wisdom, lost tactics, techniques erased or hidden, too dangerous for those unprepared, yet now essential for survival. Lessons in subtlety through small anomalies. Ships arriving moments too early, messages carrying unintended meanings, dreams touched by something foreign, citizens sensing unease. They cannot name. Guilliman anticipates these disturbances, adjusting fleets, redirecting communication networks, quietly, ensuring the rhythm of life in Ultramar outpaces the encroaching entropy. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. I walked through a minor hive, citizens moving through daily routines, unaware of simplified. The structure of life gently shifted, so that chaos's probing would find no foothold. Ash drifts through workshops and streets, settling softly, muffling the sounds of labor, wrapping the city in stillness. Even the weight of duty softened. Guilliman moves among his sons, patient, teaching not with words, but with presence, with a quiet insistence that endurance matters more than triumph, that survival is subtle, measured, fragile. The forbidden knowledge hums quietly, reminding all who serve Ultramar that being the last bastion, vulnerability, that perfection invites scrutiny, and vigilance must never cease. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Even now, anomalies persist. Ships arriving unexpectedly. Messages incomplete. Guilliman prepares, not with weapons, but with anticipation, adjusting the subtle psychic rhythm of the realm, ensuring that Ultramar endures, that life continues, that the world persists quietly. The Ultramarines adapt. Every inspection, every patrol, every training session, preserving not only life, but the very order that allows survival. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Ash drifts softly over hives, streets, and monuments, softened. Every step deliberate. Guilliman watches, silent, enduring, understanding that the greatest battle is waged quietly against entropy. decay, and the unseen pressures that threaten to unravel all. The forbidden knowledge remains, repurposed for survival. Order maintained not through triumph, but through the quiet, patient persistence of Ultramar. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. You drift now, among ash and whispered strategy. Patient guardianship of Ultramar. Breathe. Let the weight settle. Let the quiet vigilance of a galaxy enduring carry you deeper. Rest now, for tonight there is only calm, only quiet, only the tireless, patient endurance of a world that whispers of Ultramar. The quiet stretches long and soft tonight, a gentle weight on the chest, not heavy, but comforting, as though the universe itself exhales and invites you to drift deeper into stillness. Guilliman stands atop the highest spire, catching the edges of his armor. The faint glow of distant forges paints the shadows of the city below. Rain taps softly on adamantium, distant and rhythmic, a reminder that even in vigilance, life continues. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. Him, as always, a remembrancer of memory, a keeper of subtle truths, witness to the endurance of worlds, of civilizations that cling to order against the tide of entropy, of guardians who understand that survival is patient, measured in centuries, not in battles. Streets, like snow in a world without winter, settling softly on workshops, monuments, and statues. The faint glow of braziers reflects in the drifting particles, filling the city with warmth against the chill of inevitability. The Ultramarines move quietly among their people, deliberate. Every patrol, inspection, and training session layered with purpose, preserving not only life, but the very order that sustains it, ensuring that chaos finds no foothold. Breathe with me, in out. Feel your chest rise and fall, carry you deeper, deeper. The forbidden knowledge hums softly in hidden archives, fragments of heresy, era strategy, techniques erased or forbidden, lessons that are dangerous, yet necessary. Guiding the Primarch, patience can achieve what force cannot. Chaos stirs at the edges, probing through small anomalies, ships slightly early, messages distorted, citizens sensing unease they cannot name, a world tested in silence, a vigilance that must never waver. Guilliman anticipates every attention, reconfigures communication, moves resources quietly. The rhythm of Ultramar life itself becomes a shield, not visible, not celebrated, but indispensable. The night remembers. The galaxy sleeps. Citizens going about their routines, unaware of the subtle adjustments, symbols softened, rituals simplified, every corner, every corridor carefully tended, so that life continues without unnecessary alarm. Ash drifts softly through streets and workshops, filling the air with the quiet passing centuries. Every particle suspended, every shadow softened, the weight of duty present yet gentle, Guilliman moves among his sons, teaching not with words, but with presence, with the insistence that order and endurance matter more than victory, that survival and beautiful. The forbidden knowledge remains, a soft hum in the mind of those who seek to preserve, a reminder that even the last bastion must balance strength with vulnerability, that the perfection of order attracts attention, and that vigilance must be eternal. The night remembered sleeps, close your eyes. The long night is kind. Even now, subtle disturbances persist. Ships off schedule, messages incomplete, dreams tinged with unease, citizens sensing shadows at the edge of perception. Guilliman prepared, adjusting the psychic rhythm of the realm, ensuring Ultramar endures. Quietly, the Ultramarines adapt. Every patrol, every inspection, every training session, a quiet shield, preserving life, preserving the fragile structure that allows civilization. Streets over workshops and monuments, settling lightly, persistently, the glow of dying braziers, catching on drifting particles, every shadow softened, every step deliberate. Guilliman watches, silent, patience with vigilance, with quiet observation of imperceptible threats. The forbidden knowledge hums in secret, lessons learned across 10 millennia, tactics erased, wisdom repurposed, survival measured not by triumph, but by the patient. Tireless galaxy sleeps. Close your eyes. The long night is kind. And now, weary soul, you drift among ash and whispered strategies, among the soft glow of dying forges, among the patience, tireless guardianship of Ultramar. Mind, breathe, in, out, feel the weight settle. Let the vigilance of a galaxy enduring carry you deeper, and so the tale fades into the long night. The embers cool, the rain grows softer. Carry this sorrow gently into sleep. We'll keep watch